both.
Yeah, let's talk about the dresses at the reunion.
Yes, I love how the clothing always reflects. I don't know if it's on purpose. I just like to see the intellectual side of fashion. But I think a lot of times it is on purpose. You can kind of see how the clothing reflects what the character went through or who they came out as during the episodes. I don't always know the stylist for each character, but you can see it. Like, for example, you always know that like Wendy's gonna come with a like classic poised look. Okay. Giselle, very sleek. This is one of the best I think I've ever seen Giselle look at a reunion. She looks good.
I was telling Chuck this. I was like, wow, Giselle. Actually, I don't have anything bad to say.
Yeah, I think Giselle is like, everybody agrees, even people who don't like her. Everyone agrees that Giselle's a beautiful woman.
Yes.
I think Giselle's fashion improved when she leaned on her beauty.
It definitely.
What did you think about Robin's outfit?
Robin was not very memorable for me this year.
That joint was ugly. I'm sorry. I was like looking at the whole thing. It was like everybody's like, and then I got the Robin, and I was like, what is
Robin's? She tried to do something with the pants. Okay, Robin's reminded me of like when you're trying to be really, really unique in high school and it doesn't land.
Terrible.
Yeah. Terrible. Candace reminded me of pageantry.
Welcome back to another episode of Got This in Black. It's Chukwunwike, and we're back again. Your favorite black fashion show. Me and my lefter. How are you doing, Andima?
I'm lovely.
I
feel really good.
Okay.
It's funny though. I did not sleep a lot this week. Yet I'm feeling good. I'm feeling energized.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I don't know if we have long enough to talk about that. But I could be feeling better, but I mean, it's like, it's just, life is ebbs and flows. So it's just like, it's one of them lower points. But overall, I'm still good though. So it's just one day at a time, as I always say. I'll wake up tomorrow, I'll probably be super joyful. But right now, not super joyful, but it's all good. So, yeah.
We're praying for more joy for you.
Yes. Amen to that. Amen to that. And as you know, you always have a special guest. So to my left, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let the people know what you do.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sofia. I am a PR strategist and also a project developer for a fashion brand.
Yes. Thank you for coming on today.
Of course.
Appreciate having you.
I'm honored.
Okay, so before we get into it, let's get into our fits. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
You can start.
You start? Okay, today I'm taking it back home, I got a traditional top from Nigeria. I actually got it made back home. I got this in one of the markets back home. And I got on some mule loafers. One of the executive pastors at my church called these the African daddies. So that's what we're calling them. They're no longer mule loafers. They're the African daddies. So that's what I got on today. Tell us a little bit about your fit.
Yes. Today I'm wearing Ivy Park. Shout out to Cowboy Carter. Right? That's that
name.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm also wearing Hanifa Comfort inside. And then these boots, I really, really love the color are from Mango.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That does look comfy.
Thanks.
What am I wearing today? Ooh. Okay. Hanifa on the bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I yelled into the mic, but I was excited. And then same Knature The Label. It's the jewelry I always wear.
Okay.
I think this is actually Rap Life.
Oh, I love the Rap Life.
Yeah. They're black owned. So.
Okay.
And that was like not intentional. I like to naturally support.
That's what happens when you shop. Black owned.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just naturally happens like that.
You have the pieces.
It's just there.
It flows.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna warm up a little bit. So let's do a little this or that edition.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you two things. You just tell me which one you gotta choose between. Okay. So
Okay.
we'll start off. We'll go a patent leather boot or a cowboy boot.
Patent leather.
Patent leather. Okay.
Although I love cowboy patent leather.
Okay. A vegan leather vest.
Can I ask a quick question? Mm-hmm. How many pairs of cowboy boots do you own?
I own 3.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
but I own like 5 patent leather.
Okay, you're gonna have to show me those after.
I will.
I want to see them.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta get ready for the concert.
I will.
Gotcha. All right, a vegan leather vest or a shearling vest?
Vegan leather.
Okay. Trench coat or pea coat?
Trench coat.
Fringe leather jacket or a crop puffer?
Oh, I'm just a leather girl. Fringe leather jacket.
Okay. Sock boot or a thigh-high boot?
Thigh-high boot.
Thigh-high boot. Okay.
It's fierce.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Good choice.
That was a little warm-up, but I wanted to get into that conversation we were having pre-podcast. So one of the troubles that me and Andima run into is like when you're always on the camera, you're trying to figure out what to wear.
What to wear.
Especially, we're trying to support Black owned. And you were saying that you were having a difficult time finding Black owned stuff.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit during the episode where we talked about streetwear, women in streetwear. And I think one of the points I made was that I feel like there are a lot of male Black designers in streetwear, as not as many female designers in streetwear, but I feel like it also extends like to, I don't want to call it like regular wear, but like everyday wear.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. I feel like I struggle there. Like there's some really good resort wear Black designers, but the everyday wear, I feel like there's almost like a gap. And I was saying before that like I feel like Hanifa that's one of the places I go to for like some of my everyday pieces. But I struggle a little bit. Like they're not too many brands that are like my go-to black designers.
I'm like every day.
Yeah,
I'll be like, it's like the essential pieces.
Exactly. Like I'm going now, like Zara, ASOS, fast fashion, basically, which like I hate supporting, but I'm just like I don't know where else to go. So
yeah, I think like for sure. Even like with essentials, I still take Jerry as Black. I know he's mixed or like different cultures, but like Jerry Lorenzo, I think people were so excited about that because it was like, oh, we could just wear this in general. Because I think an issue a lot of Black brands run into is not being put in a box of occasional wear, especially for women. It's like there's a lot of brands for us when we're going on vacation, when it's our birthdays, etc. But like, what can I wear to the office on a Tuesday? Like there's even some really great brands that make like office ready to wear, but even that is more like, oh, I'm speaking on a panel, or it's more like very dressed up. And I do see your point. It's almost like it's like BBL fashion, super casual or super dressed up. There's like
not BBL fashion.
It's a thing. And not everybody kind of fits in that. And I even had a friend once who talked about are there any like Black owned brands for women that don't make a crop top too? And I think that's just a fashion thing in general. It's not. I'm not just gonna put on Black brands, but there's definitely a gap right now for leisure wear for Black women, like for Black owned brands for leisure wear for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody come and fill that gap.
Somebody fill that
gap.
Come and fill that gap.
Or somebody's already doing something else, jump into another lane because there's something there
something
for
there,
you.
And I think like even like with Hanifa, we just launched the Comfort line. But what's interesting is I think our customers are even getting used to the fact that that's available to them. It's like they're used to us for like, oh, I'm gonna wear this like my big event. But it's like with Comfort, it's like, oh my gosh, that's cute. But it's like, oh no, you can actually buy it. Like you don't have to go to only Zara. So
training the customer to
think because we're just not even taught to think that way. We kind of think like, even when we think Black owned, we think special occasion. Or we think like, oh, the price point is so high. So even if it is like lower to be an essential price point, your mind just doesn't even think to go there.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's good. That is good.
I feel like Japanese designers have done a good job of like their go-to with like Uniqlo and stuff.
I've been telling people for like 2 months, I kind of want to go to design school in Japan.
I believe it.
I really do.
That would be
incredible.
It's just like,
they just think different. Like it's really just different. It's really different over there. So like I would really love to learn from them. Yeah,
I think it also has something to do with minimalist culture, quality over quantity. And so I feel like a lot of their basics are really good quality basics, and it's like our basics here are just horrible.
The quality. It's funny too because he wouldn't call himself like a fashion guy, but my brother, he is actually one of the first people that made me start viewing like leisure wear that I can also dress up. Because he's like built like football player, he's that guy, and so he got into Lululemon very early. Now I know it's a thing, but he's been wearing Lululemon, and because he was like when he was transitioning into the workforce after college and things like that, it was like, oh, what am I gonna wear now? I can't just wear like athlete things. But like with Lululemon, he would show me how like he's like, oh yeah, I love these pants because they look like slacks, but they feel like what I would work out in. And so honestly, I would say like between my brother and just even seeing men's fashion, that's really where I started thinking more about like oh, like I want to think about stuff that's leisure, but also
Yeah.
looks presentable or makes me
Yeah.
feel good. But yeah, I definitely think men's fashion is ahead of us in that way.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, that's good. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Start from the beginning. What are some of your earliest fashion memories?
Earliest fashion memories would be hiding behind racks at Nordstrom. At the Annapolis Nordstrom in particular, because my mom was the manager there for alterations.
Okay.
So I was a retail baby. I'll get word to that. So my mom's family, she's one of 5, and my grandmother owned a sewing factory. So my mom and all her sisters can sew. So I grew up with like fashion all around me, but I didn't even view it as like fashion because it was like family business. It was culture. We're from Ghana. It was just like how we gathered.
Yeah.
And my dad, even though he doesn't come from a sewing background, didn't grow up with much, but he always looked good. Like he was raised like if you're presented a certain way, he'll do what he got to borrow, steal, all that. Love you, Dad, but he'll say himself to look a certain way. And so I was raised to think very much so about like what is presentable and like also expressing yourself. So it's like, you know, he may wear a suit, but it's like lime green. Like that's my dad. So
I love that.
like my earliest memories of fashion definitely come from my parents for sure. Like I think also because they didn't work in like uniform type of jobs, they were able to be a lot more expressive with their fashion. So whereas my mom like did alterations, my dad actually sewed women's shoes at Nordstrom also at Montgomery Mall. So I'm really like a retail baby in that way. Like
That's
so
such a specific
it's very
skill
specific,
set.
yeah. So like and had like really cool clients. Like Oprah was one of his clients, Gayle King, the woman that was Vanna White, Jeopardy, one of my mom's clients. So yeah, like I grew up like seeing them at the store, and even some of them would come to our house for my mom to do their alterations.
Oh, that's lit.
Yeah, like the governor's wife, like when I was a child. Like I remember all that stuff. So that my earliest memories of fashion are my family for sure.
Rich culture.
Yeah, it's very rich culture, and it was cool because it's like, yes, they're African, so I grew up with like African pieces and stuff too, but I also grew up learning that we're more than just like the printed aspect. Also, like even just tailoring and fit and cut is also a part of our culture, not just like when you see kente or otherwise. So
Yeah, African tailors are unmatched.
Unmatched.
And they get it done quick.
They get it done quickly. Unmatched. Like the skill set is incredible.
And I can relate to you. Like, I mean, my parents were not to that level, but my mom sewed. You know, so I grew up with her sewing.
My mom sewed too.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
that must be a thing.
It is.
It
It is a thing. My mom sewed. I learned to sew from her. Like she's never like an amazing sewer, but she knew how to do it. And my aunt also sews as well, and probably got it from her mom as well.
Yeah.
And so there are like a lot of us in the family who like
There's culture in
casually,
that.
know how to sew because it felt like a normal thing. I was in high school.
And you
sewing
saw
my prom dress.
Yeah, my mom made my prom dress. I was very obsessed with another early memory, not looking like anyone else. I was very big on that. And so with prom, I was like, oh, Mom, I'm too anxious. Like, mind you, my aunt owned a prom store in Laurel. I had another aunt, 2 aunts owned prom stores. My mom was so prom gals, but I was like, no, I can't look like anybody else. It was like this big anxiety. So we went to Joann's, and I chose fabric. My mom made my dress.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Love it.
But I think like even with that, like what you were saying, and even you, Chuck, like I don't think you ever mentioned to me your mom because so I think it's like so a part of us.
Yeah.
We don't see this how special it is. Like even my mom now is in the bridal industry. She has a bridal store, and for Women's Month one time we actually recorded like a conversation on her journey, and she was like, "Oh, you want to ask me about my story?" And I was like, yes, because, it matters. But I think sometimes, like, when we're so used to something, we don't always see the value in it.
That's facts.
Yeah.
That's facts. Yeah.
Or, like, the specialty.
Yeah, I think, like, an African mom just kind of, like, shapes your thoughts on clothes. Because I just can remember, I feel like my mom rarely repeated, like, a set of, like, patterns, like, a set of... I'm thinking of
uncarved fabric.
Yeah,
or lace fabric.
I felt like she rarely repeated. I used to be like literally, there's still a closet in our house. She has about 20 different laces in there that hasn't been sewn yet.
Wow.
And I'm just like,
she got it just in case.
Just in case.
Just
like
in case.
it's
the next occasion.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. So were your parents, did they? Because I know sometimes with the the West African mentality, African, even immigrant, they still want you to go towards doctor, lawyer. So even though they did that, they still try to push you towards
They tried to push me definitely in the law field.
Okay.
So what happened was I ended up trying to like, okay, even if I do law, how do I fit my interest into it? So I went through the route of like, maybe I'll be entertainment lawyer. And then when I got older, I was research. I was like, oh, there's fashion lawyers, like copyright, all of that. So I kind of I tried to compromise to do that. It didn't work out that way. But yeah, they definitely tried to push me. And honestly, even me myself, because eventually my parents left retail to do entrepreneurship and things like that. But even for myself, I saw like how much went into entrepreneurship versus when they were at somewhere like Nordstrom. And I was like, Lord, I want to work at a corporation somewhere. Like I was like, I don't want the stress. But I didn't realize that like a lot of the stuff is attainable. It's just that sometimes our families don't always have the resources to know like you don't have you can own a business and yes, there's difficulties, but there's also a way you can approach it. And there's like things you can do so that you actually enjoy your business. So I think that the more because they did encourage me to like intern for others and work for others, the more I did that, the more I saw like, oh, I can actually like do this. And I don't have to be in law like to have a structured life.
Right.
Yeah, so there was that for sure.
So like at first they deterred you from entrepreneurship, but then you ended up wanting to do entrepreneurship.
Yes, or like honestly, I think it was that and a lack of like opportunity selecting me. I feel like God was like, you're gonna go this route, because like I applied to I even applied to programs like thinking, okay, my parents have seniority here, it should work out. I applied to programs like at Nordstrom, like there's a lot of programs even in our area, which is really cool. I don't know if they still do it, where like you can intern and then possibly get offered a role. So I tried to do that. I did a lot of like shows in the area. Tyson's Corner, Bloomingdale's used to have a show, and I got to connect it with like the producer of it, Miss Barbara. Shout out to Miss Barbara. I don't know where she is now, but she was an older white woman, and she always did these like charity shows and also just like shows to help the store sell at Tyson's. I'm at Bloomingdale's, and I remember thinking like, okay, let me like try to work for Bloomingdale's because I did all this stuff with them. Another L. So for whatever reason, I just felt like these like established businesses didn't always like see the value in my experience. But when I went more the startup and e-commerce route, they did. So that's where I kind of like found myself eventually, especially like after I was like, okay, even though even after wanting to do law, I still wanted to work at like some corporation of some sort because fashion also has corporations of some sort, but it just wasn't working out. So I kept what I shifted my mind, instead of being frustrated, I went the route of who is choosing me or who is interested.
That's important.
And that's kind of how I started going in that journey.
But at that point, what were you seeking then? Were you seeking to do retail? Were you seeking, or did kind of like who chose you shaped kind of the direction you went?
Oh yeah, so who chose me shaped it. Because even the journey of me applying to stuff was after college. Like prior, I went to school in New York freshman year. Ended up coming back home because of the recession. Came back home, went to UMBC, which I adore that school. Went to UMBC, and when I was at UMBC, the culture of the campus was so like social focused and giving back. And I actually ended up studying Africana Studies. And so I was like thinking about how do I give back from the Black experience, like for all people. Because an amazing thing I learned through that program was like our understanding of the African experience and the Black experience through the content and the diaspora. It doesn't just stop with us. Like there's inventions that came from us that, we can like take hold of. So I would say my business focus really came from that. Even though I wasn't a business major, I started thinking like, oh, how do I incorporate just these natural things I've learned from culture and the history of things into business? Like, and, just the aspect of even culturally how we were people who were traders, we traded faiths, we traded clothing, we traded foods, we traded spices, etc. So my mind got really expanded in that program. And that's where honestly the entrepreneurship came from. I think for me, it was always around me, even with my parents, like when they transitioned to have their own businesses. But I was like, oh, this is like, people do this. Like this is in me, or like culturally, even you go back home, everybody's selling something. And even if like you're not in retail, you're selling something. The teacher is selling education. The minister is selling the word. Like it's like it's not always the exchange of money, but it's sales. And that was embedded in me, and I think that's what gave me the confidence of like, oh, I can go into this world. And that's when like I transitioned into, initially I actually got opportunities first in the beauty industry. Beauty and wellness, which is honestly where my heart is kind of leaning towards now again. But so with that, I was like, okay, well, branding is branding. business is business. Let me start here. That's who wants to hire me or who wants to pour into me. So I started working for a shea butter brand out of college. I had an internship as their social media and marketing intern.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got like a lot of opportunities just to learn about the industry and how to position a brand and things of that nature. And they were also Nigerian owned and worked with brands, shea croppers from back home in Africa. So that was incredible. They even had me one time go to like a shea, like these things exist, which is amazing. I went to a shea conference in Ghana and I translated for the company. It was really cool. Yeah. And it was like Unilever
you translated for them?
Yeah, like I translated Tree for like,
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like Bed Bath and Body Works was there, Jergens.
Wow.
Like, it was really cool. And we don't even know that stuff is there.
Yeah, that's
They were in Ghana for like 2 weeks. It was like a whole conference. They do it they choose a different country every year. Sometimes it's been in like Senegal, sometimes Togo, etc. But yeah, like this stuff is out there, but we don't know it, especially like coming from the DMV. Like we just don't know it's there. And I was pleasantly surprised that my eyes were open to all these opportunities when I came back home. Yeah. I thought I would experience that in New York more. But in New York, what I experienced was a lot of like everyone's trying to do the same thing. We all want to intern at Vogue. We all want to do this. We all want to do that. And ironically, I went to college during a time where there was a lot of tension in the internship world in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a lot of interns were coming out about like not having, yes, like you're not paying us, but no stipends or like food coupon, like things like that. And so the magazines, which I thought was going to go into that world, journalism at first.
I can relate to that.
They thought like, they were like, we don't want to do with interns.
Yeah.
So then that door was shut. So yeah, I was devastated. I left New York at that time. But was I that devastated? No, because people were not hiring interns the way they used to. And my whole thing of like, I'm going to New York because I want opportunities.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, all right, let me just like shift, come back up to, the DMV. So yeah, there was a lot of that, but I would say that I kind of like fell into this world again after feeling like, okay, it's just not happening. Like, it was just like, it's just not happening, et cetera. I started really getting into the beauty space, which I felt like just had a lot more opportunities, but it also did teach me what exists in fashion, ironically, because I'm learning more about that business showed me that like, oh, it's still commerce. It's still selling of something. So like there's branding, there's marketing, there's operations, there's finances, there's project development, et cetera. So I kind of took that experience and looked into other things with the branding industry. And then that's when I decided like, okay, I have a heart for storytelling. I have a heart for branding. Yeah. Let me go back to New York for grad school. So I went back to New York for journalism school. And again, I was thinking like, I'll be an editor, but maybe I'll be like, business of fashion or like something like that. So I still wanted to do both. I've always been like, I'm multifaceted. But I kind of was going that direction. However, when I went to New York again, I went to the new school, Parsons for journalism school, and I had 2 internships, actually 3. And the 2 of them were editorial internships, which was great. And then I had a PR internship because somebody had recruited me based on the work I did with the Shea Butter Company. Yeah. They were like, oh, if you're coming to New York, I'd love for you to work with me. So honestly, I took that other role as like, I know how to do this or I'm learning how to do it. It could just help me pay for stuff while I'm in New York. Right. Before realizing that there were just more finances in that PR route than there was in editorial.
So I can totally relate to that because I went to school for journalism.
Amazing.
And I wanted to do magazine journalism. My first internship was Upscale Magazine in Atlanta. From there, I wanted to do Essence. Huh?
No, I said, wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
From there, I wanted to do Essence because, like, I had so much fun at Upscale. Like, the samples would come in. Yeah. You could, like, try things and bring the product home. I forgot there's a term for it. I can't even remember.
Sampling. Like pools.
Not even that. Okay. There's a term for, like, when it was basically, like, PR.
PR
box. Like, they were, like, sending PR. Yeah. For us to feature.
And you write about it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
And then, so from there, I want to go to intern at Essence. But then, unfortunately, my grandfather passed that summer. And so I had to go to Nigeria. And I was like, I can't apply for anything. Nothing's going to work out, blah, blah, blah. And then I graduated and I was like, I don't want to do journalism. Journalism is dying. And I'm trying to get paid.
Right.
And so I landed in PR.
That's amazing.
And I feel like
it's a story,
It's a lot of people's journey, actually, because I had another friend who went to school for journalism and landed in PR. Yeah. So I can.
And now, like I don't know if you've seen, unfortunately, all the layoffs with a lot of journalism roles. So the thing is, like, journalism is still there. It's still vibrant, but they want fewer journalists.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay you as much. So it's one of those things that it's like, it's almost like when you're accomplished in a certain field, then it's like, oh, come write for us. It's not like the way it used to be of like going straight into it. It's not lucrative in that way. Yeah. For sure.
They're looking for a lot of SMEs.
Exactly.
They can bring on from other places.
Exactly. And also I'm seeing a lot of journalists who are like, oh, I'm doing like accomplished journalists, maybe 10 years plus. Like, oh, I work in communications now, or I do PR now. Because they're just like, I'm tired of this balance beam with the industry. Yeah. But that's a great thing about storytelling in general. It's fluid. And even with, when I went that path of doing PR instead, like working for an agency that was also owned by a Black woman, and I got to work with both fashion brands as well as like beauty, etc. I just learned that the bottom line, all of this is storytelling. Like it was like, I'm fluid. I can work in a different industry. Like I've promoted wellness brands, and I've promoted stain resistant athleisure wear. It's like, you give me the story, you tell me the price point, I research the editors, I pitch it. It's all a formula. Like I know sometimes, like I hate to kind of sometimes dumb down the magic of what people think something is. At the end of the day, it's a formula.
It is a formula.
It's a formula. Yeah.
But I feel like the secret sauce is like, if you're good at storytelling.
Exactly.
Like if
you can't tell it, you can't tell it.
If you can't do it well, then it doesn't resonate as much.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, the secret sauce is the talent. So like you, the talent, the person who knows how to tell the story the right way.
And even like pulling out something interesting in it. Because like there's a time where I had a fashion client within my own PR agency, and they were a team of a brother and sister. And what's interesting is even when I first came on with them, they were so into the story of like, oh, we're selling African clothing that could be worn professionally, which is really cool. I'll share their brand with you. But Dianu, shout out to them in Philadelphia, Addie and her brother Dara. But initially when they brought me on, because of how I was brought on, my focus was definitely like, oh, you can wear African clothing in a professional setting. That was like the heart of their message. And it was amazing. But later on, I started realizing like, wait, we don't talk about you two enough and how your siblings and how you wear it in professional settings. Like, oh, Addie, you're meeting with investors. You're meeting with like Google. You're doing marketing and you're wearing it yourself. Yeah. We kind of like separated it from who you two are. Like in the brand. And so even pulling that story out after like 2 years or so that they didn't initially think of is one of those things where like I was sharing earlier about my family, when you're so used to something, you don't know the story in it. Like you don't see the significance. Whereas like a lot of these brands that, we look up to and stuff like that, they saw the significance in their heritage, and that's what they're selling you. They're literally selling you like the heritage of what they do, like the luxury of something. So, for one person, it's like, oh, we just wore these boots to go on the farm. But, a brand like Ralph Lauren takes it and it's like, oh, cowboy boots, right? It's like, so I think a lot of this stuff is, do you see the significance of your story? Right. Especially when it comes to like the conversation of Black owned fashion too. Yeah.
That's good. I feel like that also translates in most art forms, like music. I feel like the reason why people resonate so much with Beyonce's the storytelling in her music.
She takes time to tell the story.
She takes time to tell the story and research the story and understand it deeply.
Exactly.
And when you don't do that, it's like it's not music you come back to.
Exactly. It's
surface. It's like, oh, okay, this was fun for a summer. Yeah. And then you move on to the next thing. But like any musician who's really good has that storytelling chops behind them. Like that's what makes it resonate.
It's so true. And I love, like, I'm a nerd, just to be honest. I love researching stuff and reading and all of that. And I was recently just reading on Black culture within the setting up of the church, like the Church of Christ, and amazing stuff. Like even like the Trinity, the council that met, the person who formulated the word Trinity was an African man. Like it's incredible. And I was reading on that and like came across like even stories of like Queen of Sheba and things like that that was mentioned with Solomon. And they talked about how even with Black is King, to get to your point about Beyonce, there's a couple of scenes in Black is King where people are attributing it to certain goddesses, but what a lot of historians believe is that she was actually talking about the Queen of Sheba. Which is really incredible in like Ethiopian Coptic Christianity. But because we don't know a lot of our history, we see something, we immediately like demonize it or immediately view it a certain way. And even like I came across one of like the monks that helped create like another part of Christian doctrine, and he died in the year 444. And there's historians who believe that Jay-Z actually named his album that as like the end of like, so 444 is a symbol of like when you're coming to the end of yourself. And like with songs like Kill Jay-Z and things like that on that album, people think he actually was like mirroring it artistically. So it's really cool how like when you actually get into the story of things, like stuff is less of like a demonizing thing and more of like, oh wow, like this is like a significant symbolism.
Yeah.
But we just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hear you. You're going through your PR phase.
Yes.
New York. You came back home. How did you end up at Hanifa?
Yeah. So I honestly got bored of my PR phase because I was somebody that once I figure out the formula, I'm like, oh, there's no more problem to solve. I'm like, okay, so I got bored. And then initially it's like, okay, let me like train people. I love mentoring. I was like, okay, let me have people come help me to pitch. This is how you research. This is how you find outlets. This is how you do a strategy. And it became like clockwork to me. And so I lost interest, or I didn't have as much excitement behind it. Even though I always loved what my clients were doing, the role I was playing, I kind of lost interest in. So I started being like, okay, I kind of have this down pat. I've always wanted to have multiple businesses anyways, or multiple things about me in my portfolio. Like I just envision myself having a career portfolio and not being known for one thing per se.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I can keep my PR agency, SMT PR, on this end, and I want to get back to my dream of fashion. So funny enough, I was meeting with one of my mentors at the time to discuss H Street Festival in DC.
Okay.
And she was telling me how Hanifa was coming to meet her because she did like sales strategy and things like that. And this is a couple years ago, like 2018. And I met Hanifa and her sister Yasmin, who's our operations director. And Hanifa, of course, is the CEO and designer. And when I met them, I was like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. Like, it was great to meet them. Of course, I followed her after that and things like that. And I had seen Hanifa's work over time in college. And I was like, oh my God, this work is great. I didn't even know that she was from here. I didn't know she was a Congolese. I didn't know we grew up around each other. Like, we both grew up later on after leaving Silver Spring, both of us, ironically. We moved to this area called Darnstown. I had no idea we lived near each other. And we did like all of high school.
What's the area called?
Darnstown. It's like in between Germantown and Gaithersburg.
I've never heard of that.
It's a random area. And what's crazy is that Hanifa lived there, just like I did. We never met. She used to go to my mom's store in Darnstown.
Weird pockets.
And look at stuff. We never met. It's crazy. And my best friend told me later on, she's like, you didn't know Hanifa? She used to do my hair. I was like, I didn't know Hanifa. Like, it's crazy. The world is so small. It's so small. I went to high school with Yasmin. Didn't know. Like, never knew. God is like incredible. So
yes, right. The
it's crazy.
Like,
so I followed them. Like, I followed Hanifa. I followed the brand. I actually was in New York. I went back to New York for a client event. Just like, I started telling myself, you know what? I like living in the DMV, but I want to travel for work. So that's still how I feel. I just love home. I like being here. So I moved to DC, but I was still doing client work, like pop-ups, etc. in New York. So I was in New York, and I saw Hanifa posted she wanted an assistant.
I remember that tweet because I was about to apply and I was like, you is not no assistant, my boy. Don't even just.
So one thing about me is if I need to learn to do something to get into somewhere, I would do it. So at that time, like, I was making money I wanted to in PR. Sorry. I was making money I wanted to. I humbled myself.
I was just like, I know I would not be a good assistant. And it's like, I'm not about to mess up what she's doing by trying to like get on. So that's why I was just like, I'll just leave it be.
Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. So I applied for it. I told Hanifa I applied. Like, I wrote her like, hey, Hanifa, I just applied for this role, et cetera, et cetera. She was like, okay, great. Like, I had to take like an assessment. It was on Indeed, that kind of thing. And then like, gosh, the next week she was like, can we have an interview? And I was like, awesome. So we met up at a Barnes & Noble. Oh no, a Starbucks. That's the Barnes & Nobles. We met up at a Starbucks. Okay. We talked for like 2-3 hours and she hired me on the spot, which was amazing. So I didn't know what to expect. I had never worked with that closely to a designer before. Like there's so many things I forget because God's been gracious. I have a lot of opportunities. I had actually interned for a fashion brand before in Rockville, Maryland. Okay. An Asian-owned brand. But it was my internship, to be honest, focused more on the e-commerce side. Okay. So I didn't really get into the other things. And I didn't really deal as much with the founder because like she traveled a lot. Okay. So I learned more about like the shipping operations, like still the business of stuff, which is still business. So I did learn that. But with Hanifa at the time as her assistant, she really needed like a right hand. Like someone that can like help her with her schedule, travel with her, keep her on point with things. And, as a creative, you all have so many things going on in your mind. And so she needed an assistant to really bring that to the center for her, help her, with whatever is needed. Like some days I may be scheduling a mentee to talk with her, like when she had her design fellowship program. Another day I might be booking her to go to a show in New York and going with her. So as an assistant, I learned a lot on that end. And what was great was that because I owned my own PR business, I could be flexible.
Yeah.
And I, at that time too, had at least like 1 or 2 interns or 1 or 2 like co-employees. So I was able to do both.
Okay.
And I recognize that flexibility. Like sometimes people cannot do both because it's like some people, I know the IT world, I have a lot of friends who are like, I work for 2 companies. And that's not everybody's story a lot of the times, but I was able to have that advantage because I did create my own lane initially.
Right.
So that's how I ended up with Hanifa initially, working as her assistant.
Okay.
First. Yeah.
So how long were you her assistant for?
Yeah, I was her assistant for about 2 years to a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, I'm over assistant life. So then I
got bored again.
I got bored again. So I dove fully into my PR agency again.
Okay.
And like I'm a ping pong sometimes. But I also, I know I'm multifaceted, but I definitely have also developed, like, if I'm doing something in that minute, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I block schedules. So I'm very focused depending on what I'm doing. But yeah, so I did that. And then Hanifa and Yaz were really gracious to ask me to come support them when they did their fashion show in 2022 at the museum. So I was brought on then to honestly be a liaison between their team and the contractors we were working with.
Okay.
So it was projects. I didn't even know I could do that, but that's what it was. We didn't even have a name at the time. It was just like, we're bringing Sofia on. Yaz was like, what title do you want to do? I was like, okay, I think it's communications. So I called it communications, not knowing it was project development. So I came on, I helped them with the show. And they had like their own PR team and everything. I think a lot of times people would like think I do PR for Hanifa. I don't, and I would not like to. It's a lot going on. I love my role separately from that. But so they had their PR team, but a part of my role was like making sure the team was connected with Hanifa and team, and then also making sure like the producers of the show were connected, the casting director. So I kind of just kept everything in the balance.
Gotcha.
And that's where I learned project development in that way, like with budgeting, timelines, managing the managers, like that sort of thing. So that's where that came into be. So even though I took that break for like a year or so from the Hanifa brand, I came back first with the show, and then after the show, Hanifa and Yaz actually like created this role for me. They were like, do you want to work in project development? I was like, okay. So that's how I got to this role now.
That's a story right there.
Thanks.
I love that.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's a good example for people to listen that like life is not one straight path. Okay.
It's never.
Like it is, there's definitely some God in there, but it is kind of going in different directions and kind of figuring out your pathway.
Exactly.
And the opportunity will come. Even sometimes when the opportunity doesn't exist, it will come. You know what I'm saying? There was no role that was project developer, and the role was
there
created
wasn't even
for
a project team. It didn't exist. And it reminds me of there's a book I read with, I believe she used to be the COO of Facebook, called Lean In. It was like really big when I was in grad school. And she talked about how Sheryl Sandberg, yes, you're on it. I like that. Sheryl Sandberg, and she talked about how like life is different paths.
Yeah.
Okay. Like how she was like, she wanted to work in politics or something. Yeah. She actually even came to DC and all that, but she was like, I never thought I would work at Facebook. Like it was like, she's like, it just wasn't even my thought. And she learned that, instead of being so like big on perfectionism, it's like done is better than perfect. And I felt so seen when I read that book because I've always felt that way. Like, and I know all of us have our gifts. We do need the perfectionist. Yeah. Because we need the person who's detail oriented to be like, that's off. We need that. Yeah. But I think not all of us are that. Everybody has different gifts. And I've definitely been the done before perfect person. And I think that's why I'm able to like do projects and see them through. And, I think very systematically. Like I appreciate creativity and I appreciate creators. But I had to realize, actually one of my pastors put it out to me. I love her so much, but she helped me realize that I was creative by being able to be systematic. She's like, oh, that's also creativity. Like business is also creative. And I think when that was spoken into me and I saw that from other people, I was able to really step into who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that self-awareness is a big part of it.
For sure.
Because if you understand that you're a perfectionist, if you understand that you're a person who thrives off a process, if you understand you're creative, like it helps you figure out how to move in the world,
exactly.
how to relate with other people, and how to actually like execute on something in a way that works best with who you are. Granted, for some people that is an ongoing battle.
Of course, yeah.
But, you know, it helps to have that self-awareness. Like,
Right.
that's like the first step to be able
For
to
sure.
like
Yeah.
execute what you want to do.
Exactly. And also being okay with, like, it's okay to pivot.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'm much
That
more.
flexibility.
Yeah, the flexibility. I'm much more interested in the what I'm doing than titles a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, you also need titles for boundaries, like to
Facts.
know, like, oh, this is my focus. And when I do my focus, if I want to do something else, great, but this is still my focus.
Yeah.
But I've had to learn that it's okay to pivot. Like, I think sometimes, especially with our generation, you know, we are very purpose driven in a beautiful way, but it can feel very like, oh my God, this was my purpose when I was 21. I can't move from it.
Yeah.
And it's more about like, what's the heart behind the purpose? Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe, you know, you started off in hospitality and now you want to be a hairdresser,
Yeah.
but maybe like the heart of it is you just nurture people.
Yeah.
You know, that's the focus. And sometimes I think people feel so anxious
Yeah.
because they're like, oh my gosh, I spent all this time doing this. I can't do this now,
Yeah.
but you actually can.
You
Like, you
certainly
can. Like the Jeff Bezos, all these people of the world, they do it every day.
Listen, that's how I felt about accounting. I was like, listen, this is literally all I've done. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
the thing is, I pivoted a few times just to get to accounting. So
Yeah.
when I finally got there, I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I felt comfortable or whatever. So then when I was like, I got the
It's not
word
it
from
anymore,
God to
yeah.
pivot to that, I was like, okay. But then I'm just like, bro, my whole experience is in that. And then it was like, okay, while I'm figuring that out, trying to get a job, and God was like, okay, don't go back to that. And I'm like, well, what do I go to? Because I don't have no experience in nothing else. I have my CPA, I have an accounting degree. And he's like, no accounting, no auditing. I'm like, okay. I mean, I hear you, but it's like, no here. Okay, but
what
where
else?
where else? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine not going back to that, but it's like, where am I supposed to go? And he's like,
Yeah.
you figure that out. I'm like, okay, here we go. Like,
It's the journey. It's like,
the journey,
yeah.
dog. Like,
My aunt always told me, because I've always wanted to do a lot of different things. And she always told me, you can do different things. Like, you don't have to just stick to this one thing. And I feel like she also showed it by example she did the same thing actually for quite a bit of time. And then she said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm doing this in a completely different direction. And it's still thriving there. And it's just like, yeah, you
chose,
you can do there's a lot of time that we have on this earth
yes.
to do multiple things. Like I can do a clothing line if I want to.
you could.
I can launch a podcast if I want to.
Yeah.
I can become, I don't know, like C-level suite at a communications agency if I want. Like, you can do multiple things.
Facts.
You can. And I think it's like, even as like our community, that's something I'm really passionate about. Like Black people knowing like you can do multiple things.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel that with a lot of other cultures, they are able to make a living doing what they love for the most part.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like foreign cultures like ours, or just being a Black American, we don't always feel that way.
Yeah.
We feel like, oh, if I do this, this is my only bread and butter. Life is so big.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and
Yeah.
you may not be able, everyone is not able to do the same different things at once, but you
Yeah.
can do it. Like there's,
Yeah.
I know people who, oh, I was this way before I was a mom, now I'm this way.
Yeah.
I was this way before I was a wife, now I'm this way. I was this way before I was a teacher, whatever. Like people are fluid.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think life will show you new parts of yourself
Yeah.
that you didn't know you cared about.
Yeah.
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 All right, Andima, let's do it.
Why not that setup? I am dying.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Andima.
So, how you feel about G&A?
Okay. I'm not going to lie. I've seen
Let the
both.
people know what we're talking about
Okay.
first,
Okay,
because
sorry.
there are some guys like me who
G&A
doesn't mean nothing to them.
Giselle and
Ashley.
Ashley.
Okay.
The athleisure, or was
Where?
it even supposed to be athleisure wear? Was it supposed
Yeah,
to be?
she's, well,
Okay, did you
Ashley
say that?
described it that way.
Okay.
Okay, this is the thing, right? I've seen both of them because I actually do attribute both of them to like fitness.
Okay.
Because even on the show, they wear a lot of fitnessy stuff.
Yeah, they're both. Very
Yeah.
The
fitnessy,
show
yeah.
we're talking about is Real
Housewives
Housewives
of
of
Potomac.
Potomac.
I was like-
Giselle and Ashley are
Yes.
two members on the show,
Yes.
and they came
The
together
people
to
know,
form
Chuck. Just you
a
don't know.
fashion
You're
line.
the only
People
one who
know.
doesn't know.
Nah, there's guys that watch the show like
That,
me
like,
who have no idea
idea
what
what
y'all
we're talking
talking
about.
about.
Okay,
So
well,
I need
anywho.
to bring them in so they can
Okay, thank you.
they can tap in.
Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
them in.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome back. So, the people on GNA, right, or the two lit women, it's similar to how I felt about Real Housewives of Atlanta with Sheree.
Sheep by Sheree.
She was Sheree. I expected more of them because they are athleisure wearers. Yeah. So to be honest, if it was like and I know she's gifted in other things. If it was like Candace who did this line, I'm like, okay, you don't really know much about it. I'm like, Giselle and Ashley, you were athleisure like every other episode. I was very disappointed. Yeah, I expected more from them, not because they're designers, but it's even if like you can't do it, I will give this a charade. Hire people.
Literally, just be like, if you
be the face.
Be the face.
Ivy Park. Beyonce hired people.
Yeah.
She's like, I wear leisure clothes to rehearse, to sing, to be a mom. Hey, Adidas, let's hook up. Like, she took Parkwood, she did her thing. It's like, hire people.
But for me, you know what it was for me? It was the reaction of the fashion show from Miss Wendy Asafo. Talking about, you two are coming up with the fashion line?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, if I was Giselle, and I know that, like, unfortunately, she had things going on in her family later on. Yeah. If I were Giselle, though, knowing how people come from my fashion, I would have teamed up with somebody quicker.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's like, even though I'm doing it with Ashley, I'm like, hey, Ashley, this person represents me. Or like, bring somebody else in. Because I think Giselle's fashion has improved this season.
It has.
It had a lot. I'm very proud of her. But like, guys, like, you know better. Like,
child.
Listen, all I heard was somebody say it's giving Alexander Wang, and I said, excuse me?
Okay.
Don't even.
It didn't look that way.
Don't you even dare justify that nonsense.
It didn't look that way, but it looked like they tried to do that.
Yeah,
failed.
The
elements of the show, like the what's it called, metallic, the streetwear,
the long trench coat. That who's gonna wear that as athleisure?
Yeah,
that must look hot.
Yeah, it's like
somebody said that too. I think somebody said that.
I'm sweating looking at it.
Yeah, it's like, to be honest, if they had done the other athleisure pieces well, no one would have minded.
Yeah,
you didn't do it well, so then having this extravagant piece was like, what?
Yeah, it's like what?
Yeah, like if you do something well, people like
you conquer that.
Exactly, like when you do something well, people don't mind you being fun.
True.
But when it was like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, you can't be bold and wrong.
Exactly, you hear me?
Yeah. G&A.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I got a crash course in Real Housewives of Potomac right before we started, so it's a little bit fresh in my mind. There's some very, very, very interesting stories going on in there, man. It's just
yes, Potomac was interesting this season. Yeah, for me.
What would you rate it?
1 to 10. Keith Lee rating. What we doing?
5. Ooh. Even that might be generous.
Middle of the road
because number one, I felt like what we love about Housewives, and I'm a reality girl. That's my thing. What we love about Housewives, period, is that we love the honesty.
Yes.
That's the point of it. Because there were other shows like Real World, all that kind of stuff. You didn't really get the people. Yeah. The whole point of Housewives is we see you. Yeah. And of course, as much as you want to show us, but we see you. Yeah. And my number one issue with the show this season was that no one wanted to confront any issues. Mm-hmm. Even though, yes, there's always a series of housewives who are more confrontational than others, and I get that. No one wanted to do it. It was like, and the person who did want to do it kept being like the same two people. Mm-hmm. And then when the other person's addressed, it's like, yes, people have a right not to speak on certain things, but don't be childish about it too.
Can we say names?
Oh yeah, Robin.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So like Karen, so Karen kept like forcing Robin to talk about her marriage. Yes. Listen, Robin has a right not to talk about her marriage. That's fine. But then Robin will do little things like la la la. I'm like, Robin, we're not 12. Yeah. Like you can literally tell Karen, it's not your business. Yeah. This is my marriage. I would even respect that. Yeah. But it was just very like childish. Exactly. And then things with like leaving out Candace and Wendy, when like they're trying to do other activities because like they're just not able to all to come together and be like, hey, even if we don't agree, we're all on this show. We want to share our lives. We want to support the DMV, whatever. Yeah. So for me, that was very disappointing. Yeah. And then I will also say on the flip end with Candace and Wendy, it's like, okay, Giselle's talking about her daughter going to school in a racist area, a very real moment. Why are you making faces?
They did two things that for me, okay, people should know this based off of some previous episodes, but I love Candace and I love Wendy. But they pissed me off this season.
They did, me too.
They pissed me off.
Why'd you stoop that low?
I'm like, I get it. Giselle is not a likable person. I totally get it. And she has done stuff to personally affront y'all. I get it. But don't, like, there are certain things where you, like, there's a line.
There's a line.
And you're over here. When it came to her father and when it came to her children, I'm just like, come on now. Like, we get it. Like, you don't like
be
her.
An adult.
But yeah, be an adult. Be mature about this. And you can say, I guess Candace kind of said it. She said, she's like, I can feel bad from her from afar. She kind of said it, but still, I just felt like
and I have so much respect for Dr. Wendy and Candace, and honestly, a lot of the stuff too, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I do feel like your character is your character, and it's like no matter what Giselle or who Giselle is. And I do think the better parts of her is when she's showing her motherhood side. And I don't know her personally, so it's not fair. I don't know her, but I do think that even if you felt how you felt, like I liked how Wendy did say she wouldn't allow her sons to go to that area. But I also like what Giselle said, like, she has Jesus, she'll be okay. Like, you also don't want to discourage a mom. It's like women are already beat up so much. It's like, we didn't need you on camera making faces about it. Even though I'm sure she wasn't doing it towards her daughter. It's just the principle.
I'm also like, wasn't she going to FAMU?
Yeah. She's going to HBCU.
Calm down, Wendy. Like, calm down.
Like, you wanted to be shady.
You wanted to be shady.
And
you
it's like,
went out your way.
You're the number one, like, black women should be educated. Her daughter's going to college. That's even a moment of, we're not friends, but you can even offer support in that way of, I'm sure you know professors, or even if you want to do all that. Yeah. I'm sure she will be fine.
She's about to have the whole of FAMU come for her. Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't. Let me ask my FAMU friends. Real intense.
One of my clients, their brand was actually based from FAMU, a hair brand, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, but I was just kind of like, I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, it was.
I did not. Childish.
But this Robin thing, though, this is 2 seasons in a row, though.
Yeah, that's my issue with Robin. Robin.
Don't be on the show, okay?
Yeah, and she's not now, right? She says she's not.
I know Candace said that she wasn't.
Yeah, I think Robin said so too.
Robin said so.
So this is the thing. I have a controversial view about Robin.
Okay.
I actually happen to like Robin very much.
Okay, wow.
I like Robin. That's
my soror, but
Oh yeah, I like Robin, but my thing with Robin is, I also think women have this issue of, no offense, you cannot like somebody's partner and still like them as a person. Like, it's like, I don't need to like Juan, her husband, and I don't know him, but I feel like the show is about like the woman. Yeah. If you have an issue with Robin, let it be with Robin. Which they did have issues with Robin, but I feel like a lot of it was kind of like, oh my gosh, why are you still with him? Yeah. It's her business.
It's her choice. I think Robin's funny.
I think Robin's funny.
I do think Robin's funny. But I feel like I didn't realize she was funny until like last season.
Oh,
before that, I thought she had no personality.
So
I'm just like, she's actually kind of funny.
She's funny. Yeah, I like her personality, and I like the way she's like, I'm gonna be with my son and be with my husband, even if he's saying something that's not true to whatever to the public. More power to you, Robin. But I just feel like the cast is kind of annoying, because it's like when one person wants answers, they must have the answers. When you want an answer, they're not giving you it. It's like, if you don't want to be on the show, don't be on it. Yeah. People have left shows and came back when they're ready to be more open. Exactly. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes it's like, my family's going through something, or, and even with Candace, I know what they did to her husband last season was horrible as far as like false accusations. And honestly, there was never really an accusation, but more so like, besides Ashley's friends, but more so like just the feeling of being uncomfortable, which I get that. Yeah. And like, I know people feel like they feel about Giselle. I think if somebody else had said that, there would have been a lot more compassion about it. Yes, it would still be annoying, but it's because it's Giselle. And they don't like Giselle. And that's the reality. But I do think even with Candace, it was like, what did Robin do to you? Robin sat on that show and even went against her own best friend, or her own friend that we know of.
She did.
And defended your husband. So
that's why I was mad at Candace.
It's childish.
That's why I was mad at Candace, because Candace, you're saying one thing online and you're doing another thing. You're approaching this, you're like, oh, I love Robin, I want to make up with her, blah, blah, blah. But like,
on the show,
why did you do the shit you did online? Why did you do that?
It's a waste of time. If I was Robin, I wouldn't be your friend either.
Exactly. And you're getting mad at her for like choosing no after you said all the things you said?
Yeah, it's like subtweeting her and then all that. And then you're like, oh, Robin, I don't know why you're mad.
Come on, Candace. I love you, girl, but like, why?
Real Housewives is real, as you can see.
I'm sorry, we got to talk about clothing.
The clothing,
and then we can move on
to
a different subject, the reunion.
Yeah, so, the clothing of I wanted to talk about them both.
Yeah, let's talk about the dresses at the reunion.
Yes, I love how the clothing always reflects, I don't know if it's on purpose. I just like to see the intellectual side of fashion. But I think a lot of times it is on purpose. You can kind of see how the clothing reflects what the character went through or who they came out as during the episodes. I don't always know the stylist for each character, but you can see it. Like, for example, you always know that like Wendy's gonna come with a like classic poised look. It's like what's interesting is, when she first got some of her like medical enhancements done, she was a lot more open with her outfits and things like that. This season around, it's like, yeah, I'm showing cleavage, but I'm giving you like couture.
Like,
Yeah.
the Barbie outfit.
The Barbie
I
outfit.
love that
I love
outfit.
that outfit too.
That was cute.
It was fire. And it's like very intentional. I feel like Karen wants to make her stake and is really accepting that she is like the monarch of the show. She wore like a very high neck type of like very queenly outfit.
She did that.
Yes.
I like the short hair on
The short hair is fire.
That short hair looked good on her.
It
It
looked
looked
really
way
good
better
on her.
than the other scene when I saw the long hair. I'm like, nah, you need to stick with the short hair.
She's stick with short hair.
Yeah.
And it's just like a new look.
Yeah,
like
I loved it.
It's almost like I feel like Karen's look was giving, I'm going into the future, but I still bring my like wisdom with me. It's like
I feel that. I can see that.
And
she had
the
a little what was it? She called it 20 times, or was it 10 times? No, 20 times 3.
20 times 3. Triple
20.
Triple 20.
Triple 20.
Okay.
Giselle, very sleek. This is one of the best I think I've ever seen Giselle look at a reunion. She looks good.
I was telling Chuck this. I was like, wow, Giselle. Actually, I don't have anything bad to say.
Yeah, I think Giselle is like, everybody agrees, even people who don't like her. Everyone agrees that Giselle's a beautiful woman.
Yes.
I think Giselle's fashion improved when she leaned on her beauty. It's like you don't need to wear so much. Focus on like your beautiful eyes.
She has a stylist now.
Yeah, she has a stylist now too. And I think that stylist has been able to like really show like, oh, Giselle, you're beautiful existing. Let's just give you this slim black dress and a nice necklace.
Yeah.
Like everything doesn't need to be over the top. And I think Giselle used to look too much because it was like, ooh, what's going on?
It's like she bedazzled everything.
Bedazzled and like it didn't need
crazy.
to be that way.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I also think that the outfit Giselle wore for the reunion is also coming through with. I will say I saw more poise from her this season.
Yeah.
A little bit more poise. Yeah, somebody could say that she was avoidant. I saw more poise. So maybe she's trying to learn how to navigate that. I think her outfit was poised. Mia, I think Mia this season.
I remember her outfit.
Which one's Mia? Is that
Mia,
the one that's going through with her husband?
Gordon.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah,
Gordon.
she was wearing the
Yes.
dress. Her
dress is fire. I think
was tough.
her dress reminds me of a designer that's from here. I think she did it. I can't remember her name right now.
Really?
Yeah, she also did the engagement gown for my best friend. I cannot remember her name right now, but she's a Nigerian designer, and I think she did Mia's dress because of the way the dress looks. I think she did Mia's dress. I'm not too sure. I could be wrong, but that like I could tell Mia wanted to kind of be like elevated.
Okay, yeah.
It gave elevated. Like I think she maybe heard the you only wear BBL bodycon type of stuff. I think she wanted to give something more.
Okay.
This is definitely giving an African designer.
Yeah, I forgot the designer's name. She's an amazing designer. I just can't remember her name right now. But I think Mia was giving that.
Yeah, I like
and then NECA is, I think
That's
she looked
the
great.
newest one, right?
That's the new one.
Okay.
I personally do not like how NECA approached the show. I think she looked lovely at the reunion. And that's what I'll say about NECA. I don't have much else to say.
Her and Wendy got beef, right?
Yes, because she basically, I am looking forward to seeing how, because it looks like Wendy was even like speaking Igbo on the show.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. I want to see.
I asked Chuck. I was like, Chuck, what is she saying?
I couldn't tell.
They translated it. It looks like so.
Okay.
But yeah, when I will say though, for NECA, what I'm remembering more about her look is her hair, and her like just the look, not so much her clothing.
Yeah, her hair was actually very
cute.
cute.
She looks amazing. Yeah,
her hair was cute.
like her glam looked amazing, which is a part of the outfit in my opinion. I think.
No, it definitely.
What did you think about Robin's outfit?
Robin was not very memorable for me this year.
That joint was ugly. I'm sorry. I was like looking at the whole thing. It was like everybody's like, and then I got the Robin, and I was like, what is
Robin's? She tried to do something with the pants. Okay, Robin's reminded me of like when you're trying to be really, really unique in high school and it doesn't land.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Candace reminded me of pageantry. And
I like
she's
Candace
a pageant
look.
girl, but she reminded me of pageantry.
It is in this picture, I guess when she's standing up, I can see it being more pageantry.
It's very pageantry. And I know she's a pageant girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her. I liked her
That
outfit.
one girl, her hair did not complement her forehead
Who?
at all. I think it's Ashley.
Oh, Ashley.
Her hair did not compliment her forehead at all.
Listen, I'm a fan of the bump, but with her forehead, I would have did more bangs.
Please cover that thing up.
Yeah, a little bit
Put a curtain
more.
on that joint.
A little bit more bangs. Oh, jeez. You really?
I'm sorry. Ooh, that was not good. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was too much. I'm sorry.
Remember, you live here. You might come across these women.
I know.
I mean, Ashley, you would definitely come across her. She just
you might come across Ashley.
I apologize. Actually, I didn't mean to. But next time, please choose a hairstyle that compliments you.
No, but I will say, like, all of the women in real life, like, they've come to shows and stuff before, like, very kind, very supportive. yeah.
I feel like, honestly, I would get along with all of them in real life.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, as much as, like, Giselle and Robin kind of grind my gears, but I feel like that it's
also
editing.
a show.
It's editing too.
It's editing, and it's also
editing,
difference of personalities.
Difference in personalities. Like, people are naturally don't always get along. Like, that's just normal.
That's
and
right.
I think also I'm biased a little bit because I gravitate to Candace more. I think I just like
like Candace.
I like spicy people.
Okay.
I love the Grande Dame because she's spicy.
Yeah, I think Candace is beautiful. I don't really besides, like, okay, I will say when I first started watching again heavily, I related to Candace on the end of, like, people making you feel bad because of what your parents have afforded for you. I've definitely gone through that in life. So I used to really resonate with her on that end, and even, like, growing her relationship with her mom and things like that.
Yeah.
I really resonated with that.
Her mouth is terrible.
Yes, but her mouth, yeah. Candace now, I don't relate as much. I used
terrible.
to relate really heavy, but now I'm like,
terrible.
Yeah, that whole issue with the fight, I feel like she wasn't trying to own her part of it.
No, she definitely was.
She's
not.
too quarrelsome.
Because it's like,
yeah, her mouth.
I know the girl
slick.
came over and did that, but she came over because she heard you talking about
Yeah,
it. You're like she shouldn't have came over. I'm like, well, why were you talking to her about her that long in the first place? Like, so it's like let's get to the root of it.
Let's get to the root of it.
Yeah.
And see, you're even saying that, like, as somebody who just watched it. Like,
I was just
it's
like,
not biased,
bro,
it's
if you gonna talk, like, you gotta back it up with your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so.
Or like, say what you did.
Exactly. And I just hard because I just think she's funny. I like funny people.
Yeah, she's funny.
She's really funny.
Which I agree with you too. I think Rob is really funny. And they keep bringing Charisse back. I didn't see her in this reunion. I like Charisse as like, and I get why they bring her back, though I do. She brings balance. Like, she kind of unifies the woman because she's like an OG.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, her and Karen have not created their own balance or their own unity.
Yeah. Is Charisse the one that had the boot?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're good. So it's made it be like, okay, producers, you're bringing Charisse back to help us feel kumbaya, but her and the main other OG don't have kumbaya. So it's like it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But also, I do think Charisse is a very sweet woman. I met Charisse twice. She's very sweet.
I'm not gonna lie. I was watching that. I'm questioning if that boot is real when she was just trying to get attention.
I believe it.
Really?
Yeah, because who wants to lug that around? Oh, you think it was attention?
I just wondered. That was in my mind. I was
like,
somebody
who has worn a boot.
I don't think you want to do that.
I would not just do it just to get attention.
I would hope not. But I was just like, because they really didn't show the scene. So it's like, I'm just going off her word of like her trying to hold.
I do believe that Candace picked up that bottle and that she tried to restrain her. So
I believe it. And I think too, unfortunately, sometimes people bring certain things out of you.
Yeah.
You're not always the same.
That's true.
Like, I got a chance.
And then when you're drinking too.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I got a chance to meet, she's so kind from when I met her, Monique. It's so funny how, like, you get to, like, see, I was like, oh, this is cool. One of my PR clients, unfortunately, wasn't able to make his interview. So I went to PGC. She's on the morning show now. And I got to meet her. She was so kind. Yeah. Yeah. It's called like good. It's like something mornings on WPGC, but she's like it was really cool to see her in that way because she's, I don't know if she's always been that, but the show didn't show it, but she's like really into wellness now and like super zen and like just her vibe is really beautiful.
I always liked Monique. I don't know, like
I didn't on the show. Or she was off-putting to me on the show.
Is she from, like, PG proper? Like, I think I understood her.
Oh, yeah. So on the show, I just felt like, I was like, oh, she's a mean girl. But I didn't know.
She was kind of a mean girl. But, like, I understood, like, when they showed her at Home Life. I understood her. Like, I was like, she's weird and quirky. She has a parrot. Like,
she has a parrot?
Yeah, she had a parrot.
Wow. Okay. I was expecting that one.
Yeah, like, but she just seemed really deep and like really like.
She reminded me of like people like maybe people I knew.
Okay. I will say though, like I love the Housewives in Potomac in particular because I think I love how they show that Black women are not monolithic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because growing up in the DMV, like we're so different.
Yeah.
Like I know Black women have like just differences. I grew up in Moco. I have a lot of friends who grew up in PG. I have family who grew up in PG. Even within that, like a lot of us are similar. A lot of us are different. It's just like we're not one thing.
Yes.
And I love the show for that.
Yes.
All right, so now this is a topic I've been wanting to I feel like the listeners will especially love scaling a fashion business, especially in a non-major city.
Yes.
And I know that's something you want to talk about. So, I'm here in PG County. I want to start a menswear, ready-to-wear brand. I want to I don't want to really do streetwear. I want to do more like more like the other side of Jerry's like main collection that gets into the suiting, gets into some like tailoring and stuff like that too. So like how would I start?
How would you start? Okay, number one, you would start by finding out what are you going to fill in the market? Okay. Like what's missing? Mm-hmm. So you just say you don't want to do streetwear. It's why do you want to go the other route? Really thinking about like, okay, who is this man I'm dressing? Or who is this woman? Is it a unisex brand that primarily caters to men? Because people do that too. I think even Jerry honestly kind of does that. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what's missing and who's the target initially? What can happen is that you will develop the brand and maybe it doesn't stay on that target, but at least you have one to begin with. And as you're doing research, you can know like how to tweak what am I going to focus on based on this target at this time. So the number one thing would be the researching on what's missing, the target, and then after that, you really want to get into the business model first. Okay. Because even before, like a lot of times people will kind of jump ahead and like, oh, let me design and source the manufacturers. Even before that, you want to know like, okay, what's my business model? Am I doing a drop model where maybe I just want to find brands and be more of like a boutique, like a Sense or like a boutique type of thing? And, you know, you are buying it through my website, but they're shipping it to you. That's a drop model. Do I want to do direct e-commerce where I'm the one fulfilling the orders? Do I want to have a brand where I'm working with pop-up shops or stores in the area to get it placed there? Okay. Because that's a whole other model. So really figuring out like, how do I first want to do this, right? Another model could even be, do I want to sell this on social media? Post it on Instagram, people DM me and I drive it to them. That's a model too. So it's really kind of like, how is this going to be a business? Right. Because there's some people who start brands and they don't even sell online yet. They just do like pop-ups or go sell at like, I don't know, a lounge. Like you can get creative. Like there's a place called Manifest in Georgetown. They're a barbershop, but they're also like a clothing pop-up where they have like different designers every quarter and things like that. And like downstairs is the lounge. It's amazing. But like that's an example. Yeah, that's an example of like really like how do you want your business model to be? Because some people, they don't want to be online.
True.
And some people, they want online to be a supplement of what they do in real life. So that would be another thing. And then I would get into, based on these factors of business, what's missing, the problem I'm solving, the target audience, the business model, what am I going to design? Because you should design based on these things. So like, if I'm trying to design something for e-commerce and it's my first time, I need to design something that is very simple to buy. I need to design something that a man can look at the measurements and either buy it and it fit him great or he can get it tailored. Like, so maybe I give extra fabric in the pant size. So maybe like there's 2 more inches, you could tailor it up or down, right? If that's the route you want to go. If I'm going the route of like, I don't want you to have to even think about tailoring, that's another topic. That's like, okay, maybe I could do jackets. Maybe I could do accessories, like something that's like easy. If I'm going the route of like, oh, I really want to design stuff for men that are like, traveling for business or for IT or whatever, or even creative guys who can just wear something and be comfortable. Let me start that way. So your designs should be informed by that, as well as by through your research, who's going to produce the clothing. So if I'm going to like work overseas,
I was about to say, how do people go about finding, manufacturers?
Manufacturers, I mean, there's so many things. Like you can first go through researching, literally Googling manufacturers, blah, blah, blah. There's some in California. There's some in New York. The CFDA, which is the Council of Fashion Designers based in New York, they have a whole list of manufacturers.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they do.
That makes sense, though. Yeah,
but like as a research tool, especially for the U.S. So, of course, most people will say like, oh, producing overseas is cheaper. However, the headache and the confirmation of samples overseas may cost you more. So what you might want to do is, let me look at this CFDA list. Like if I'm in the DMV, I can go up to New York. It's a train ride. Or let me look at what these manufacturers do. Let me see, like, do I know any tailors here that could do it? There's people here that could do it. Maybe they're not known, but you could research that kind of thing. Facebook Marketplace, you could find like a seamstress or a tailor. And the number one thing you want to do first, even before agreeing on a manufacturer, is get a sample done.
Okay.
When you get your sample done, then you know, like, okay, it cost me this much to make the sample. That's not that bad. I can make this here in DC, or I can make it in New York. I can make it in California, Miami, whoever. Or if it's like, this sample is great, but the fabric was too costly, I need to go to Turkey or I need to go to China. But the sample will let you know what needs to go into it and how do I need to work with it. Because what's beautiful about fashion is that it is international.
Gotcha.
And so you can even like, honestly, you can go on Amazon, look at the bottom of like, you know, those companies that just create those nameless like t-shirts and stuff. And let's say you like the quality of the t-shirt. You look at the bottom of the company, you could find them and you can see if they do private label or you can see if they manufacture clothing. So a lot of it in the beginning is doing the business research, making your sample, and then researching backwards from that sample.
Gotcha.
Of like, okay, this sample is great. I love this jacket. The zipper was too hard to find. Do I want to keep the zipper? Do I want to get rid of it for now? It's like you can always come back to it later with a zipper. But maybe in the interest of time, you want to launch in 2 months, or I don't recommend that. Like maybe you want to launch in 6 months.
Shout out to Rivers Wild.
Yeah, so you want to launch in 6 months? Okay, let me do that. Or at least I know I have the jacket down. I can start pre-sale. Let me start pre-sale. Let me like take a photo. Like let me get a shoot of these samples in a photo shoot, whatever. Let me like, you know, at least have 1 to 2 options to manufacture it. Let me do a pre-sale model. Let me use that money to put it back into the business. So a lot of it, honestly, like from anywhere you are, no matter like you're in New York, you're here, you're there. Even if you don't want to travel, you can also do this without traveling. It might be more difficult. I think it's easier if you're able to like connect with another city, even if it's Philly. But like cities that have very industrial type of cultures, they will help you in that way.
Yeah.
But you know, the biggest thing is really getting to the bottom of how do I want to present this clothing and what problem am I solving? Because also too, what you don't want to do is just put your everything into the brand, as in like you have no money left, and then you're resentful when nobody wants to buy it because you didn't sit to think about your marketing plan. Yeah. Like I went to a Black Enterprise conference once, and Master P said something really powerful. He was like, the issue a lot of times with Black-owned businesses and brands is that we have a lot of product. We get that research, and we've grown a lot in that area, but we haven't actually marketed it. So then you're home and somebody has a garage filled with like shea butter or filled with t-shirts or filled with all this stuff. You never marketed it, and you just said it's not going to work. You know, you never even tried.
Yeah, Master P, that boy markets.
He markets.
That boy markets.
He markets.
All right, so let's say I got my story. I got my, I know the story I'm tell. I got my customer. I've got my sample. What's after I found my manufacturer? What's next in the process?
What's next is how do you want to launch?
Okay.
Do you want to launch as a mini pop-up with someone, or do your own thing and then have a landing page where people sign up with their emails? Do you want to sell right on the spot? Right? That's where you can get like Square or PayPal, you know, that sort of thing. Do you want it to be a launch more of a preview? Like, oh, I'm showing these people that have a say in the industry or like a say in my market. So maybe it's not like fashion designers or journalists who are there, but maybe you brought lawyers there that travel. Or like you brought basketball players. I don't know, something that of who you're trying to speak to. And you let them see it, let them give you feedback. And then you're like, great, the brand launches in 6 months. I now have the content, the experience, and the feedback from this market I care about to now launch it better in the future. Gotcha. So I honestly think the next step will be really thinking about and creating a strategy on how you want to approach your launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then once you get the launch down, once
the launch happens, it's like, okay, launch happened. What went well? How many t-shirts did we sell? Did we sell none? We need to refigure marketing wise. Did we sell out too fast? What can I do next time to have more product? Which, to be honest, it's better to sell out too fast than to have too much product. You create demand that way. So honestly, selling out fast is not a big deal. Now, if you've been in business for 5 years and your customers are getting pissed off with you, that's a big deal. But the first time, it's not a big deal. You can just open up again, do pre-sale, figure it out.
Yeah.
Is it that, oh my gosh, customers love this product, but it was too difficult to make? What decisions do I have to make? So that's where you have to come back after you've launched. You look at your revenue, you look at your reach, and you formulate next steps. Like, what are 3 next steps? Maybe one next step can be, I need an intern. I cannot do all of this. I need somebody to do social media. Maybe I can even like hire, if I have the capital, I could hire an agency or a publicist to help me with the plan. Maybe I could just work with a creative that will just do my shoots for me one-off. I don't pay him every month or her every month, and I move on. So first off, identifying the who. The people or the person that you need to support the business is very important. So even if like you don't need marketing support, like, oh, you did great, like people love it, and you really need operational support, like I need somebody to come and pack this stuff and ship it. That's also a need. So I think a lot of times we think about the what with stuff. You really have to think about, once you like actually have launched stuff, you've done your own research to know it really well, the who. Like one of my publicist friends, mentors, Candace, she always talks about how people get frustrated with publicists because they are like, oh, you didn't do such and such. But no offense, you didn't learn the industry or what you need to know the right publicist for you. Or know the right anything for you. Like, so it's like, oh, you hired an accountant to do your taxes, but accountants don't also always give financial advice. You should find one that actually does, right? So it's like, we get frustrated.
Facts. Stop asking me to do your taxes, okay?
I'm still ass.
So it's like, we do all these things because we haven't researched it. Right. So I will say researching enough about your brand at that time to know what do you need.
Yeah.
Who do you need? What do you need? And then the third thing I would say is start mapping things out quarterly. I'm really big on like quarter mapping out. Like, okay, I started this way. What do I want to see the next 3 months from now or the next 6 months from now? I like 3 months from now because it's enough time to see results, but you're not also taking too much time.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That point about making sure you do the research is something that, so, you know, for folks who don't know, we do our whole setup. We do everything. We do the audio. We do, right now we're doing the editing. Like, this is, you know, self-made. And I asked the videographer friend to come and help us with our setup. I was like, hey, like, you know, it's not as crisp as we like it. And, like, the coloring is not right, yada, yada. And he came and, like, helped us through our setup. And he said, I'm helping y'all, but, like, just also know that, like, do the research. He's like, so you got a nice camera here. Do you know how to use it? Have you taken the time to sit down and really understand it? Like, you do the research. You can't get lazy with that part. And I feel like that's something that, like, well, I think when you're doing multiple things, it can be harder to do the research, but at least identifying and, like, doing it initially, taking that time to do it. You may also, from doing the research, understand we shouldn't be doing this. Exactly. Someone else should be doing this.
Somebody else should do it.
Like,
exactly. At least you did the research to know it.
Yes.
And also, like, something I would say, because I tend to find the beauty and wellness world, and also it's because, like, we've been doing this stuff forever. I mean, fashion also has been around forever. You know, since the Garden of Eden, right? Like, but like, but what I found though was a lot of times, yes, right. What I found with like the beauty industry, those brands are a lot more willing to make mistakes and fail. They view things very experimentally. I've noticed that. And it could be maybe because they can do less units, or they're a lot more like, I've had so many beauty clients in the PR world who were like, hey, Sofia, we're hiring you for now, but this year and next year is when we're going to determine if we're going to keep the brand or keep this product. And they're not, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my business. It's very like, if it doesn't work, we'll move on to this. Like, I worked with a dermaplaning company. I really respected them for this, where they had tried, like, I think 4 years. They went all in. They, like, hired me. They did the marketing. They did, like, different things, events, speaking, PR, gifting, etc. But they said straight up, if we do not meet this certain sales target that we know we can meet, and beyond it, we are not going to go forward with this product anymore. We may come back on the market with something. They even won awards. Like, we submitted them on the PR perspective of, like, design awards of the tool they created and all of that. But from a revenue perspective, they had a certain understanding that this is experimental. Yeah. And I do think that's a lesson for fashion brands, and especially Black-owned fashion brands and Black-owned brands, period, that things could be experimental. Yeah. I think that for, like, unfortunately, in our culture, we haven't always felt like we can make mistakes. Yeah. And so we approach business as the end all be all. And that's the exact way to fail. Yeah. Like, Caucasian business owners and, like, our peers and stuff, they don't do that. Like, they will tell you, oh, I'm making this snack brand. If it doesn't work out in 2 weeks, or, like, excuse me, in 2 years, I'm done. I'm good. Or, like, I'm going to move on. Like, even I worked for a personal care brand that sold soaps, like body wash. They started off with bar soap, and then they expanded to body wash and hair care. And what was really cool is they hired me because, well, it's going to sound bad. It's not racist because I respect it, but they hired me because I was Black, and they wanted to venture into hair care for women of color, and also because of my major. Like, those two things. Like, in my interview, love Dave, shout out to Dave, but love him forever. He's like, what's your hair type? And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that, like, right? And he said it very respectfully. He was like, I do not mean this disrespectfully. This is not an HR situation. But he was like, what's your hair type? And I was like, I had braids in. I was like, it's 4C. He's like, awesome. He's like, would you be comfortable, like, sharing your hair experiences with us if we hired you? And I loved that. And he was like a white man, and he started, like, with Teach for America, all of that. But yeah, he started in that world. But, like, he had so much language. And also another reason why he did hire me is because he was like, you will know how to communicate things to people without pandering them. Like he
Yeah.
was like, we're a brand that we empower people by hiring soap makers instead of being like, because like back then Tom Shoes was like a thing, and he thought he was gonna be like a Tom Shoes with soap, and he's like, oh wait, no, that's degrading because you take business from the villages and things like that. He's like, oh, let's actually hire them and pay them. He's like, that's how I'll do my social part of my business.
Yeah.
But he
Okay.
taught me that like that's experimental.
Yeah.
He started off thinking buy one bar, like give one. He's like, oh no, we're not gonna give one. We're gonna buy one, hire one.
Yeah.
But that's experimental. Another
Yeah.
person, like in our culture, typically we would have just shut down the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for David, it was like, okay, well, we made bar soaps, let's make body wash. Let's stop saying buy one, give one, and let's hire. So
Yeah.
it's like it's okay to pivot, and it's
Yeah.
like just like that. Think of like, to answer your question again of, you know, what do I do after I've done all of this? You really start looking at your brand like a researcher, and
Yeah.
like an experiment.
Yeah.
If you look at your brand as like, oh, you know, this is just what I want, it's most likely not going to do as well as you want it to be. And I will give, it hurts my heart to give this example, but I will. Pierre Moss, I love Kirby. Like, he was my favorite designer for a while. My favorite exciting, like, black designer. But the thing with Kirby, I think where he missed the mark is that Kirby wanted to be an artist, but he started also trying to be like a multi-figure business. And I don't think he was honest with his partners about what he wanted to be. I think the partners wanted to make him the next Jordan or the next like athleisure, you know, streetwear, like fast fashion brand, even though it is quality. And I think Kirby wanted to make art. I think the disconnect with his business was he was making art and like, oh, who cares? Like if it does well, it does well. But you can't do who cares when you have partners and you have business ventures. They need their coin. And you can do who cares as an artist if like I hired you as art people. Like if I'm gonna make my clothing and things as like exhibiting and people buy it for $5,000, oh by all means you could do that. Like, but I don't even know dishonesty per se.
Disconnect.
The disconnect. He was not aligned with his partners. You got the fashion world excited that you're gonna be like the Louis Vuitton of like a certain thing. You know, you did all that stuff. Coming from like Brooklyn and stuff like that, and people respected you. But what you really wanted to do, you didn't communicate it. And maybe you did communicate it, you just wanted the funds. By the end of the day, it actually hurt you more. Because then they started like producing bags and like doing all this stuff. And their brand could not keep up with the demand that was needed of the investors. And so you really do have to ask yourself, like, what do I want this brand to be? Like if I want it to be more personal to me, more artistic, I might go the route of like keeping it very small. You can still grow and like be successful, but it might be more of like, oh, you come and shop us at like an art exhibit. Like you can do that.
And there are a lot of people who make that choice.
Exactly.
There are a lot of people who are like, it's almost like the concept of like small batch production of like of alcohols and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's like you're like, they're only, I don't know, like 600 of these or something like that.
Exactly. You're
and
done.
that's all we're producing. And that's done.
And
You need
that's
to be
done.
okay with that.
Exactly.
And know that that's what you intended to do.
Exactly. And then in that way too, if you do that, like I think Virgil was really good at that. Virgil had Off-White with like his ready to wear and his made to order stuff. But then Virgil also just did fun projects with Harvard University because he wanted to.
Yeah.
No stakes are lost. Like he's still able to provide for his family.
Yeah.
He can still teach people. He can still like go to Japan, to Ghana, to wherever. And no one like lost respect for Virgil because he knew how to like be honest about those things and do different things. And I think that as designers or like if you're wanting to start a brand, you have to be very honest with yourself. Do I care more about the brand right now or business? If I care about the business, I might have to make some decisions that maybe artistically I don't necessarily love. Or I have to bring somebody who can help me with the business because I just want to focus on the art. You have to be honest about it and not have an ego.
That's what I was talking to Chuck about.
And not have an ego about it, because we all have different strengths.
Yeah. But I also feel like all of that, like, like for Virgil specifically, I think it has something to do also with like mentorship and having those conversations with people. I feel like people probably have those conversations with him and he did not listen.
I agree. And being honest about it.
Yeah. So it's like,
and Virgil was a team
you did
player.
say the honesty part.
Yeah. You're right. Virgil was super collaborative. He's a team player. And people like that go far.
I meant Pierre Moss was the one who did not.
Oh yeah. But you said like Virgil as an example of like he was able to do different stuff because he was a collaborator too.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Kirby collaborated. I'm sure he did, but there definitely was a disconnect between when his capital grew with what they were producing. There was a huge disconnect. Yeah.
That was good.
Thanks.
That was good. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions related to my business.
Are you thinking about these, Lee?
I mean, I think eventually down the line, I will have something. At what level or capacity is, I don't know.
You're not sure yet, yeah.
I just know that I'm not really going to do anything for myself unless I have the conviction of the story I want to tell and the conviction of what I want to create in the market. So until I have that, I don't have that currently. Like, or it's brewing. It's not really defined.
I feel like if
yet.
you don't have your story, it doesn't help you.
It's like, I don't think so. So I think I would start working for other people until I fully build that. But it's funny because I feel like the guy I would design for would date the Hanifa woman.
I love that.
If that makes sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
I think the aesthetic would basically just like, they would just be like, oh yeah, they see the two, they're like, yeah, they fit together, they make sense. Like,
but that's such a thing. I like despise when somebody's aesthetic does not match. Or like even not even like all the time because we're humans, but like when you're going to like a specific outing. Like there was an outing, and I love them both, but there was an outing that Sierra and Russell Wilson, I think it wasn't the ESPYs, it was some outing. Sierra had on this beautiful like chocolate, not latex, but like leathery type of gown. And then like it was very like earthy, futuristic tone, but classic. And then Russell Wilson just had on like a black.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. Sorry, Russell Wilson. Oh my gosh, I know it's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had on just like a black tux. And I'm sorry, your stylists didn't speak to each other. It just didn't fit. And I don't like that. I'm like, especially if you're going to go out in a public setting.
I've seen that with them a couple times.
Yeah.
Like,
their stylists are not matching.
What y'all doing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just their styles even. They're just different. Like, Russell's just very, like, kind of.
Yeah.
And even if he is.
I don't want to say cookie cutter, but maybe that's it. It's just like, he's just going to simple, clean.
But to be fair, right, even if that was the case, let's put Russell in like a brown tuxedo.
Exactly.
He could be simple, but like it should match her in a way. Like,
so I blame the stylist for that.
Yeah, I blame the stylist for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sierra stylist is great though. Like, yeah,
Sierra stylist.
My mom actually, this is a cool fact. My mom actually got to tailor an outfit for Sierra when she went to the White House.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom.
So shout out to her stylist. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So we're gonna ask you what we ask pretty much all of our guests since we started, and that is, what is your favorite Black fashion moment?
My favorite Black fashion moment was meeting Dapper Dan in Harlem at his atelier.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Which was incredible. And it was for a filming for Tidal and the Black History Month, like history lesson they were trying to give. Really incredible. That's when I was assisting Hanifa. I got to go to that. And I knew that it would be like a big deal to me, but I didn't realize it until like even just hearing more from Dap. He had a way of talking about fashion as like a language, and it left like such an impression on me. Such an impression. Like after that, I read his book. Like I always respected him, but I grew in respect for him from that. And just like his way to understand like the symbolism of fashion. Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't know he also lived like in Africa, and like he took a lot of like themes from like Senegal, Nigeria, and Ghana into what he does. And
I
it
can
was
see
really
that.
cool.
I didn't know that,
see
but you can see it.
And also from men from Congo, like there's a group of men that like dress a certain way.
Congo dandies.
Yes, and that dresses like that.
Yeah.
And so meeting him and hearing his story and reading his book more on his story, that was like my favorite moment. And then of course now seeing how like he's partnered with brands like The Gap. It's like he used to have to run from these brands, and now they want to work with him. That's been like my favorite Black fashion moment for sure.
Man, that's what's up.
I
like,
love that one.
I'm crazy because when I went to Fashion Week August 2023, and I met with somebody in Harlem, and we walked past the store. He wasn't in there, but even just walking past the store, I felt the energy. Like I was like super excited. And like, he wasn't even there, but it was just like
it's so much energy.
Yeah.
He's like in the most respectful way. He's such a grandfather, like so like kind, like. I remember I was just in the corner, like I can't even believe I'm here. So I was just quiet and just, focused on working and stuff. And then I think he saw me. He was like, "You want a picture?" I was like, "Yes, please." And then I was wearing my coat. I didn't even think about it. And he was like, "Oh, but show your outfit." He's like, "You don't wear it for nothing." I never forgot that. So I always think like you don't wear it for nothing. So every time I feel like shrinking somewhere in that world, I think about that. So I appreciate him a lot.
I love that. That was a good one.
I'm jealous. I
know.
That where you at? Come through the pod one time, man.
And shout out to his son, Jelani's a photographer. Awesome guy.
Yeah,
Amazing
Jelani's
guy.
fire.
Yeah. He's like a brand manager, photographer.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing a great job handling his dad's brand with
He really
care,
is.
taste, all
Amazing.
that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. Where can the people find you? Social media, website, where if they want to hire you, SMPTR.
Yes. So they can find me on Instagram at SMTPR_, or my personal page is Sofia Maame. Again, as you all know, I do multiple things, so probably just follow my personal page. You'll see everything else. So they can follow me there. So again, that would be SOFIAMAAME. And if you want to connect with me, otherwise LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. There as well as Sofia Maame too. Okay. Yes.
You can find us at Got This in Black, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, share, all the good stuff. So,
yeah,
yes.
I love it.
Yes.